The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not dust, not rust, but something heavier, colder, like the air had been left to rot inside these walls for decades. My footsteps echoed across the concrete floor, hollow, accusing. The factory was empty, or it should have been. Every light flickered once, twice, and then went steady, as if settling into a rhythm that didn't belong to me. A clang rang from somewhere above, sharp and metallic, like a hammer striking a hidden pipe. I froze. Nothing moved. And yet, the sound had direction, coming closer. My pulse spiked, my hand brushing against the railing of a stairwell I wasn't sure I'd seen before. On the far wall, half hidden in shadow, I noticed it, a small sign, handwritten in jagged letters. "The rules are watching." I blinked, certain I'd imagined it. But the air seemed to thicken, the silence pressing into my ears. Then a voice, low, almost a whisper, slid across the empty space. "Don't break them." I spun around. No one. Not a single soul. And then the lights flickered again, longer this time, revealing something that shouldn't exist. A pair of eyes, high on the scaffolding, unblinking, watching. A cold hand of dread clenched my chest. Something in this factory didn't want me here. And the rules didn't make sense. I had no choice but to go deeper. The factory smelled of metal, oil, and something older. An underlying staleness, as if the air had been trapped for decades and left to sour. Dust swirled lazily in the shafts of weak fluorescent light, coating the machinery in a gray haze. Every footstep I took sounded too loud, too final, as if the concrete floor itself was listening. I'd been told the job was simple. Sit, observe, follow the rules. Nothing more. But the rules themselves were a riddle. There was a folder on the desk in the control room, 100 typed instructions. Some were mundane: no smoking. Keep the cameras on at all times. Others made no sense at all. Do not speak to the walls. Do not eat alone. Do not turn your back. And the one that unnerved me most: do not break the rules. They are watching. I laughed nervously the first time I read it. Empty factories don't watch anyone. Shadows do. Silence does. But I learned quickly that in this place, the distinction didn't matter. The control room overlooked the main floor. The machinery sat idle, skeletal, as if frozen mid-motion. Yet the shadows weren't idle. They pooled near the corners, shifting when I wasn't looking directly at them. I rubbed my eyes, telling myself I was exhausted. My pulse thrummed a warning I refused to heed. A creak made me freeze. The office door had been closed, yet now it was slightly ajar. I stepped closer. The floor groaned underfoot, each sound amplified in the hollow silence. Then I heard it, a whisper. Not loud, not distinct, but precise. "You shouldn't be here." I spun. The room was empty. The air hung thick, pressing against my chest, making it hard to breathe. My fingers trembled over the rules folder. Every line seemed to shift slightly, as if alive, watching. A phone rang. I jumped, glancing at the dusty receiver. Slowly, I picked it up. "Don't touch the rules," a voice rasped. One line, impossibly calm, impossibly sinister. "Or they'll touch you." The line went dead. The whisper, the call, the shadows, they all conspired against logic. I told myself it was a test, perhaps a prank, or some elaborate psychological experiment. But the instinct in my gut screamed the truth. This place was wrong. I decided to explore. The stairwell to the upper floors loomed like a dark maw. With each step, the metal groaned beneath me, a sound that echoed into the cavernous factory. The shadows stretched along the walls, long, thin, clawing at the edges of my vision. The lights flickered. I thought I saw movement high on the scaffolding, figures or reflections, my mind unsure which. The rules pressed in my pocket, weighty as a promise or a threat. I read line 17 again. "Do not turn your back. The factory is always looking." I shivered. On the upper floor, the machinery seemed more alive. Belts and pulleys creaked as though shifting on their own. A sudden clatter echoed from the far end, sending a thrill of panic down my spine. I froze. The sound didn't repeat. It didn't need to. Something moved in the corner of my eye. Shadows, yes, but something more precise, deliberate. I could feel it, watching, calculating, waiting. My hands tightened around the folder. The temperature dropped. My breath condensed into faint clouds. Then a low voice came from somewhere behind me. Too close, too deliberate. They're waiting. I spun, but the floor was empty. The air was still, save for the faint hum of unseen machinery. My mind raced. Every instinct screamed to leave, to run, to escape this place, yet my body refused. I needed to see more, understand more. There was something here, something ancient and patient, and the rules, they weren't just instructions. They were warnings. The silence returned. The shadows paused, watching me from the corners, the rafters, everywhere I wasn't looking. The factory seemed to breathe around me, alive in its stillness. I stepped forward toward the center of the floor, toward the heart of its waiting. And as I did, I realized, nothing here followed logic, nothing obeyed reason. Only the rules mattered. And I was already breaking them. A metallic clang echoed from above. Footsteps, mine or something else's. I didn't dare look. Then a faint movement, just beyond the edge of my vision. A figure. A shadow. I couldn't tell. The fear curling in my stomach wasn't panic. It was anticipation, the kind that presses in before the inevitable. I had a choice. Turn back and leave, or move deeper and risk whatever was waiting for me. I stepped forward. The shadows stretched toward me, eager, patient. The rules whispered from the pages, sharp and alive. And somewhere, deep in the factory's bowels, I heard it. The sound of something waiting and watching and knowing. I swallowed hard, knowing that once I crossed that threshold, nothing would ever be the same. The factory didn't just watch. It judged. And tonight I had become its subject. The upper floors smelled older, fouler than the first. Rust and oil were still there, but mingled with something metallic, sharp, like blood long dried into the concrete. Every beam of the flickering fluorescent lights seemed to stretch shadows along the walls, elongating them into shapes my mind almost recognized. Hunched figures, faces that weren't quite faces, arms reaching where no one could be. I tried to convince myself it was exhaustion, imagination, or perhaps some elaborate psychological test. The folder of rules weighed in my pocket like a talisman and a warning. I glanced at line 23 again. Do not speak of what you see. My stomach churned, but my curiosity burned hotter than fear. What could be so important that silence itself became a command? I reached the end of the hallway, where a metal door led to what appeared to be an office. Its window was dark, but behind the grime, I thought I saw a shape, someone seated at a desk. I froze. The figure didn't move, didn't breathe, but I felt its gaze like a weight pressing into my chest. I swallowed, trying to remember what day it was, what month, anything outside this factory. Nothing stuck. I had no idea how long I'd been here. I stepped closer. A voice broke the silence, low and brittle, like dry leaves scraping across concrete. Don't touch anything. I jumped back, nearly tripping over a coil of cable. The voice didn't belong to anyone I could see. No one emerged from the shadows. And yet it had come from somewhere. Inside the room? Or inside my own head? I forced myself to focus. Flashbacks to the previous night came unbidden. My conversation with the hiring manager. A thin, nervous man who avoided my gaze. His hands constantly twitching over the desk. You understand the rules? He had asked, his voice careful. I think so, I said. Sit, watch. Report anything unusual. He leaned closer. The rules, they're not suggestions. They're the only things keeping it quiet. Don't break them. And don't ignore them. People who do, they disappear. At the time, I dismissed it as corporate theatrics, some hazing for a new employee. Now, with the shadows pressing in, I wondered how much of it had been a warning and how much a confession. The hallway stretched, narrowing into an iron staircase leading to the roof. I climbed, each step groaning under my weight. Something shifted above me, a door, a vent, perhaps nothing, but the sound of movement was deliberate, echoing in a pattern I couldn't trace. I wanted to turn back to leave, but a pull I couldn't name drove me forward. By the time I reached the roof access, The wind was howling through broken panes, carrying the faintest sound of laughter. Or was it screaming? I pressed my back against the door. The rules dictated silence, but fear pressed words to my lips. "Who's there?" I whispered, voice trembling. No answer. Only the whine of the wind, the echo of metal bending, the distant clatter of machinery starting on its own. I opened the door. The rooftop was a tangle of rusted railings and warped panels, the city beyond blurred by fog. And then I saw it, a shadow moving across the factory floor far below, precise, deliberate. Not cast from me, not from the sun. Another figure. Something older, hungrier, moving as if guided by instinct rather than thought. A memory intruded, half remembered, from the news. The factory had been abandoned years ago. Workers reported strange occurrences before it closed. Missing colleagues, strange machinery malfunctions, rumors of cults, secret meetings, and unexplained deaths. The place had a reputation, whispered among locals as a watcher of those who dared enter. I descended the stairs carefully, each footstep a loud accusation in the hollow building. Every hallway seemed longer, narrower, and the shadows more alive. A door at the far end of the hall creaked open slightly. I swore I saw a hand leave a dark smudge across the frame. The rules were in my pocket. Line 42, do not follow the figures. But something inside me couldn't resist. I stepped forward. The office I had passed earlier now held more than just shadow. Papers were scattered on the floor, their edges curling unnaturally. The chair spun slowly, then stopped abruptly as I approached. My own reflection, or something pretending to be me, glanced up from the desk, eyes hollow, skin pale, smile twitching unnaturally. I blinked. It was gone. A whisper floated in the air. "They remember." My heartbeat thundered. The floor below me groaned as machinery whirred, belts rolling, gears grinding though the factory had been dormant for decades. I realized, with a jolt, that the place wasn't empty. It had never been empty. Something lived here and it had been waiting, watching, learning. I tried calling the manager on the factory phone, but static swallowed my words. And then a voice, low and dry, rasped from the receiver. "Do you see them yet?" I dropped the phone. It hit the floor with a hollow clatter, and silence returned, briefly. Then, a series of soft, deliberate knocks echoed along the walls. Not random. Patterned. Someone, or something, was counting. Watching my reaction. I ran, or tried to, but the hallways twisted impossibly. Doors that led to empty rooms now led to stairwells I didn't recognize. Corridors that hadn't been there before. My pulse raced. The factory itself seemed to rearrange itself around me. A labyrinth designed for one purpose: to trap. In one corridor, a faint glow caught my eye. A bulletin board, covered in yellowed papers. I approached. They were employee files, pictures of people I didn't recognize, until I did. Faces of workers who had been reported missing over the years. Each picture had notes. Disappeared. Found empty. Broken. Names scratched out, rewritten, some repeated. My own name. Noah not yet. But the sense of inevitability pressed in. A creak behind me. I spun. The shadows moved, elongated, almost human. Whispering voices, unintelligible yet urgent, filled the hall. I covered my ears, but the sound seeped into my skull. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with each word, each breath. I stumbled into a storage room. Crates stacked high, covered in dust and cobwebs. I tried to steady my breathing. The rules were still in my pocket. Line 67. Do not touch the crates. I hesitated. My curiosity betrayed me. I lifted the corner of one crate. Inside, nothing. Or nothing visible. Yet I felt a presence, a weight pressing against my chest, cold and unyielding. The air thickened, and a single whisper slid across the room. You shouldn't have done that. The floor vibrated slightly. Shadows gathered in the corners, thickening, converging toward me. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if multiple voices were speaking in tandem. Leave, follow, obey, watch. I turned to leave, only to find the door had vanished. In its place, a wall. concrete, unbroken, and in faint dripping letters, the words, "The factory remembers." Panic clawed at my chest. My mind raced. Line 78. Do not scream. They hear. I bit my lip, forcing my voice to stay silent. My hands shook, my vision blurred. The shadows seemed to breathe with me, shrinking when I moved, expanding when I paused. Then, from somewhere deep inside the factory, a metallic clang, a single, deliberate note, echoed. The sound of machinery starting up. A conveyor belt whirred, moving boxes of nothing. And above it, a figure appeared. Tall, indistinct, almost human, yet wrong. Its eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the dim light. And it smiled. I backed into a corner, clutching the rules folder. The figure advanced, silent, patient. The air grew colder, thick enough to choke. And yet, it moved with a purpose, as though it had been waiting for me to find it, to acknowledge it. A voice rasped from the shadows, louder this time. Do you understand now? The rules. They protect. Or they punish. One mistake. A sudden shift. I felt the walls tilt, the floor ripple. My legs gave out. I landed on the cold concrete, face pressed against the floor. The rules slipped from my pocket. They floated upward. Or was I falling backward? Time distorted. The lights flickered. The shadows converged. I could hear whispers of my own thoughts, repeated, twisted, mocking. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't. The figure loomed above me now. I could feel its presence inside my chest, inside my mind. The factory was alive. It knew me. It remembered every rule I had read, every rule I had broken. And somewhere, deep in its bowels, it had been waiting for this moment. I closed my eyes, hoping to wake up. Hoping this was some elaborate nightmare. But the whispers didn't stop. The shadows didn't recede. And the factory. It didn't forget. The factory had stopped feeling like a building. It was alive. It breathed, it watched, it hunted. The shadows were no longer confined to corners or high scaffolding. They flowed across the floor like thick liquid, pooling and stretching toward me with purpose. My hand shook, clutching the rules folder like a lifeline, the pages rustling with a sound that almost whispered, "You belong here now." I stumbled toward the main floor, the upper corridors twisting impossibly, the staircases folding into themselves. Every step I took echoed through the cavernous emptiness, yet somewhere deep inside, the floor vibrated in counterpoint, as though the factory itself was marching to a rhythm only it could hear. A door slammed shut behind me. Hard. Metal. Solid. The impact reverberated through my chest. I pressed my back against the nearest wall, gasping, and realized something terrifying. The factory wasn't empty. I could feel it. Every metal girder, every shadow, every silent machine, focused on me. The lights flickered once, twice, then died completely. Darkness swallowed me. I could hear whispers, hundreds of voices layered atop each other. You should have stayed outside. You should have obeyed. Watch. 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 I tried to speak, to call out, but my voice was gone. Silence pressed into my ears, only broken by the steady, deliberate sound of footsteps. Mine and something else's. Something heavier, slower, but impossibly close. Then a flicker of light, a single swinging bulb overhead, and I saw it. A figure, tall and impossibly thin, standing in the center of the main floor. Its face was featureless, except for two faintly glowing eyes that bored into me. Its limbs moved in angles that should have been impossible, elbows bending backward, knees twisting outward, yet every motion was precise, controlled, predatory. I stumbled backward. My hands trembled, but I forced myself to hold the folder in front of me like a shield. The rules whispered again, the letters on the pages twisting, forming sentences I hadn't read before. You cannot leave. You cannot hide. They have always been here. Always waiting. A scream tore from my throat, though I didn't hear it. The figure tilted its head, as if acknowledging my defiance. Then a voice, impossibly calm, came from nowhere and everywhere. Why are you still here? I don't know, I whispered, though I knew it was a lie. Curiosity, arrogance. Or perhaps the foolish hope that understanding would save me had brought me this far. The figure advanced. The shadows followed, crawling along the floor like black water. The temperature dropped sharply. Each breath I drew fogged in the air, my own fear crystallizing around me. Objects along the wall shuddered, falling in slow, deliberate arcs. Machinery groaned, then burst to life, belts spinning, gears grinding, sparks arcing across rusted metal. I ran. Or tried to. The factory seemed to fold around me. Corridors became stairwells. Stairwells became cages of steel. Every exit led back to the main floor. The figure was always there, patient, waiting, its glowing eyes tracking me with precision. I remembered the rules. Line 91. Do not run. Do not panic. I laughed bitterly. Running felt like the only sane option. My footsteps pounded against the concrete, echoing like warning bells. And yet, the sound of my pursuer, impossibly silent, yet undeniably present, kept pace. In the distance, a faint glow beckoned. An office, or what had once been one. I dove inside, slamming the door. The room was filled with old filing cabinets, papers strewn across the floor. A single chair rocked back and forth as if moved by invisible hands. I stumbled toward it, desperate for anything to defend myself, when the whisper returned, soft, intimate. Do you see why the rules exist? I spun, expecting the figure, but nothing. Only shadows, shifting, pooling. I could feel it crawling along the walls, stretching toward me, pressing against my mind. My thoughts fractured. I saw glimpses of other workers. Missing, twisted, trapped in the factory's impossible geometry. Their eyes pleaded. Their mouths moved, but no sound emerged. A hand touched my shoulder. I screamed, spinning to face. Nothing. Or everything. The shadow solidified for a heartbeat, forming into a human shape. Then it dissolved, leaving the room colder, darker, and heavier. I slumped to the floor. The rules had fallen from my pocket. Pages splayed open. The letters writhed, forming sentences that burned themselves into my eyes. They never leave. They only wait. You cannot leave. You are one of us now. A sudden clatter. The door slammed open. The figure was there, towering limbs bending in impossible angles. Its eyes glowed brighter. Shadows surged from the walls, flowing into it like tributaries joining a river. I could feel their pressure, their weight, their intent. I tried to flee. My legs refused. I screamed. The figure stepped closer, slow, deliberate, each movement punctuated by the creak of unseen machinery. I could feel its consciousness pressing into mine, probing, reading. Memories of curiosity, arrogance, fear, all of them laid bare. I remembered line 100 of the rules, the one I had ignored. Do not acknowledge them directly. Too late. The figure extended a hand, impossibly long, skeletal, and pressed it to my forehead. Pain exploded across my skull, a searing light behind my eyes. I fell to my knees, clutching my head. Whispers, screams, laughter, and crying, all overlapping, flooded my mind. I saw myself in every missing worker, felt every terror they had endured, knew the factory's secret. It was alive. Not just the building. The shadows, the machinery, the rules themselves, they were extensions of it. It consumed time, attention, memory, and sanity. It watched everyone who entered. It waited. And I had become its latest subject. I tried to speak, to bargain, to promise obedience. The figure tilted its head. Its voice, if it could be called that, was everywhere. You cannot leave. You never could. Do you understand? Yes, I whispered, though I wasn't sure if I was agreeing or begging. The shadows pressed closer. The walls warped. Machinery groaned as if straining against invisible chains. My vision blurred. I could feel myself slipping, dissolving, becoming part of the factory's geometry, its rhythm, its memory. In a final act of defiance or desperation, I snatched the rules folder, raising it as if a shield. The pages fluttered wildly, then stopped. The figure paused, tilting its head again, observing. A soft click, almost imperceptible. The shadows recoiled slightly. But only slightly. I realized then, defiance had only delayed the inevitable. The factory did not need me to obey. It needed me to understand. And understanding was the trap. I fell to the floor, and the figure leaned closer. Its eyes bored into mine, glowing with the weight of centuries of countless victims. And in that moment, I saw every rule I had broken, every step I had taken toward curiosity, every glance at the forbidden, every heartbeat of arrogance that had brought me here. I screamed. Not from fear, but from recognition. The factory exhaled. The shadows surged, consuming me. Machinery groaned, belts clattered, lights flickered and died. Silence fell, but heavier than before. The air itself pressed against the walls, the floor, the ceiling. I was no longer a visitor. I was part of it. A memory. A shadow. A whisper. And the rules, twisted and alive, remained. Watching. Waiting. Eternal. Somewhere, in the darkness beyond perception, a whisper echoed. Not mine. Not theirs. Something else. Something older. Another one. The factory pulsed. Alive. Hungry. Patient. And the darkness closed in. The factory was quiet. At first, I thought the silence was relief, a reprieve. But relief never comes here. Not in a place like this. The lights, long dead, no longer flickered. The machinery had stopped, but the echo of its life remained, lingering in the floorboards, the beams, the air itself. Even the shadows, though still, seemed to hum, a low vibration that set my teeth on edge. I moved cautiously through the main floor. My body felt foreign, heavier somehow, as though memory itself weighed me down. The folder of rules lay open at my feet, pages curling with age and damp, letters shifting just enough to make me glance twice. Some rules had vanished. Others remained, sharper, more insistent. Do not leave. Do not look back. They remember. I tried to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. Silence had become a living thing here. Sound was not my ally. Footsteps echoed behind me. Mine, maybe, or someone else's, but the factory had a way of confusing perception. Time had stretched and folded. How long had I been here? Hours? Days? I couldn't tell. I reached the office where I had first glimpsed the shadows. Papers littered the floor, filing cabinets toppled, chairs overturned. But the chair I remembered, the one that had rocked back and forth on its own, now sat perfectly still as if waiting. I knelt beside it. Dust rose, forming faint patterns in the faint shaft of light from a broken window. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw shapes in the dust. Tiny figures huddled together, watching, whispering. A whisper rose from the shadows, soft, intimate, deadly. You belong here. I froze. My heart hammered. And yet, even as terror clawed at me, I realized it wasn't fear that gripped me. It was comprehension. The factory did not merely trap people. It folded them into itself, absorbing their curiosity, their defiance, their lives, and leaving only memory and warning for those who came after. I tried the doors. Locked, blocked, folded into walls that hadn't existed before. Windows reflected nothing but darkness. Even when I pressed my face to the glass, I understood, fully and with a gut-chilling clarity. Escape was never an option. The factory had chosen me. Somewhere in the distance, a faint metallic clang echoed, a single note, deliberate, impossibly patient. I recognized it. The rhythm of the factory's pulse, the heartbeat of the thing that had watched me, tested me, broken me. I pressed myself against the wall, shivering. The rules, every word, every line, had been alive, guiding, punishing, shaping me. I had broken them in thought, if not in deed. And now I was marked. I stumbled back toward the stairwell, the upper floors now inaccessible. Shadows pooled in every corner, static yet moving, solid yet liquid. I tried to resist their pull, tried to flee mentally if not physically. But the factory had already won. My memories, my identity, my understanding of reality. They were slipping. A whisper closer this time, directly in my ear. Remember, they are always here. I turned, saw nothing. Yet the pressure of presence was undeniable. It pressed against me from all sides, the walls, the floor, the air itself. I sank to my knees. The rules folder had floated into my lap, pages trembling. The letters shifted again. Do not leave. Do not hope. Do not speak. Do not scream. I obeyed. And then the memory came. Fragments of all who had come before me. Faces, names, voices, all folded into the walls. The whispers became coherent for a fleeting moment, a chorus of the lost. We tried. We failed. We watched. We obeyed. We became part of it. I shuddered. A sudden understanding. The factory did not kill. It absorbed. It recorded. It waited. I was not a survivor. I was a witness. And witnesses were a commodity here. Forever aware, forever watching, a voice in the chorus of memory for the next to come. I rose slowly, trembling. The building seemed calmer now, patient. Even the shadows had settled, pooling into corners, waiting. I moved carefully through the main floor, past machinery, past silent echoes of my own footsteps. Outside, the city was faintly visible through broken panes. I wanted to leave, to break free, to run. But the rules, sharp, alive, insistent, held me. Do not leave. I obeyed. Hours, or what I assumed were hours, passed. Time had no meaning here. I walked endlessly through corridors that twisted and changed. Every reflection, every shadow, reminded me of the entity I had confronted. I was still me, yet not. Something within had shifted irreversibly. The factory had rewritten my understanding, folding my fear, my curiosity, my very essence into its rhythm. A faint metallic sound echoed again, a single note, deliberate, like a heartbeat counting the dead and the trapped. I paused. The rules were in my hands, or perhaps my hands had become part of them. I could not tell. A reflection on the cracked window caught my eye. A figure sitting behind me, pale, featureless, glowing faintly in the dim light. I froze. The figure mirrored me, moved when I moved, breathed when I breathed. The whisper rose again. Another one. I understood. I was now part of the history of the factory. One day, someone else would come, curious, foolish. And I, or what remained of me, would watch. The rules would speak. The shadows would move. And the cycle would continue. I sat down on the cold concrete floor, the rules folded neatly in my lap. Silence surrounded me, thick, alive, comforting in a way only madness can offer. Outside, the faint glow of the city seemed distant, irrelevant. The factory was eternal. I was eternal, now a memory, a witness, a whisper. And somewhere, deep within the walls, the faintest sound of machinery beginning to stir again. I closed my eyes. The shadows pooled. The air pressed in. The rules whispered, "Do not leave." And the factory waited.